Now, have you ever wondered, and we know you have, when a commodity you've invested in will bottom? If so, this segment is for you. Our guest is going to walk us through some charts for major commodities that show cycles of topping and bottoming prices. He compiles hundreds of years of data to try to accurately predict these moves. We're joined by David Gurwitz, Managing Director at Charles Nenner Research. David, great to see you.
Andrew, thank you for having me.
And just remind us briefly, if you would, because I know it gets complicated.
Yes.
What was the basic thesis of Charles Nenner? What does your research involve?
Sure. Well, first of all, Dr. Charles Nenner was in medical school, found while in medical school, triggered by looking at patterns of intake of patients all around the world in a certain area. They couldn't understand why things were happening, and he's a natural pattern expert. He found that patterns repeat going back many years by looking at top to tops in any data series. For example, crude. For example, let's say there was a top, forget about the price for a second, every 5 weeks, every 11 weeks, every 16 weeks, going back as long as we have. Those create sine curves, and they're called cycles from the Greek word circle. And so what our system does is combine them, and we'll see in the charts, into a master cycle line, which you can call the Nenner cycle, which combines the most likely of all the cycles we found where we're going to find tops and bottoms in stocks, bonds, commodities, and currencies.
Let's show the chart for crude, sure. Because we're showing the actual price here, and then the Nenner cycle.
Right.
And the Nenner cycle is a tool that's intended to give a guide of where crude is going. So what is this chart telling us about crude prices?
The chart, I assume the chart is up on the screen now.
It is, yes.
The chart shows that even though we're having a little bump up now, which we said would be a short-term up, I could look over there. The down move is going to start and go down till next May.
Next May. Next
May. And let me tell you one thing. If you see the crude cycle, it was the crude chart. Crude was 147 not that long ago.
No.
And Charles was sitting on another show and said we're going to have deflation, and they laughed, and 6 months later, crude was $49.
They mocked him, though.
Yeah, but he had no idea why. Nor do we have any idea why this is happening now. We're not that smart to know why it's going to happen. All your other guests will tell you that.
That's interesting.
Yeah, we don't know why.
Is it a human herd behavior?
Yes, basically, we're assuming, even though this is technical, this is truly fundamental. Humans operate in repeating patterns. We're looking for the way they reacted in the past, not what they were thinking about what was going to happen.
Now, let's have a look at gold.
Right.
The conclusion here is that gold bottomed in July, but will be up until next year. Correct. So that's looking kind of good for gold?
Correct. Even though we're not, this chart is just a cycle chart, doesn't give level. It only gives direction. So even if it's a steep move showing here, it doesn't mean anything. We have another algorithm that gives us level that's based on quantum physics.
So this is direction.
Only direction. Cycles only give direction. Level is a whole nother analysis, and we give that also.
So the chart, I mean, from my crude reading of it here, is that we're likely to see some weakness in gold, but then a renewed rally?
No, it bottomed already, and it is up until next year.
Oh, until 2018?
Yes, and then the fine-tuning of the levels we give as well.
And then copper.
Copper, right.
Copper, this is interesting. Copper's had such a rally, it's lost some of its altitude. But you think it's going to hit a new top around December?
Correct. Correct. Why, we have no idea. No idea. Years ago, copper stayed around $1.50 and for many years, $1.50, and then it shot up, and then at that point, there was some sovereign wealth fund wanted to invest billions, and we said it's down, and we were right, because it went down. We have no idea why. So copper, Dr. Copper, the economic indicator, supposedly what everyone says, is looks like it will be, like you just said, July is the turning point. And why, we don't know, and the level we'll give as we get closer.
Yes, it's refreshing. You say some things we have to pass over in silence. We just can't explain them.
Well, we're smart enough to know we don't know why, but it seems to work pretty well.
So let me just walk through those conclusions if I could.
Sure.
So you reckon that we should watch out that by this analysis, oil could well set a bottom in May of next year.
Correct.
Okay. Gold likely to keep rising this year.
Correct.
But
into next year.
Into next year. But any forecasts for the rest of 2018?
Let's just take it one step at a time, and we'll the readers, the watchers will come back and watch what we say on the site.
Very quick, and then copper, you think a top in December.
top in December,
okay,
right.
so that's bullish for the metal investors.
Exactly.
I have one other chart, if I may, to show you, and it's a different methodology, but I just want to get your technical take. Oil breaking through some moving averages.
Right.
Is that a thing that holds a lot of water with you?
It is one of many things we look at. When you sprain your ankle, you go and take x-rays, and you don't know if it's sprained, broken, fractured. We look at a lot of things. Trend lines is very important, Elliott wave, stochastics, point and figure. And he is a doctor, Charles, so he came to this, let's look at a lot of things to decide. Moving average, 200-day moving average, basically a year. You think back to,
for sure.
So that's what people want to know, what happened in the last year. It's one thing we look at for sure, but it's only one thing, and a lot of people get, I think, overly excited with it, and there's much more going on than that.
And the complexity, of course, is it becomes a self-fulfilling thing. People say,
Yes.
it's broken the average.
Correct. Exactly.
Yeah, that's what makes the market so much fun.
Right. Well, you need to have people on to talk, so that's part of what they
Oh, yeah, that's right.
David,
David,
things to say.
David, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
David Gurwitz, Managing Director, Charles Nenner Research.